If you think about software engineering like a game, there are levels to it as there is with any other game. Today, I want to talk about the 7 levels of software engineering and kind of break down some popular figures who I think are in each level. Starting with level 1. The passionate. Now, as a software engineer, there's 2 types, right? You got one that actually likes what they're doing, and 2, someone who doesn't like what they're doing. I think that's a great way to kind of start this entire journey, because if you want to be a good software engineer, you actually just genuinely have to enjoy software engineering. You have to be able to break stuff, tear things down, understand how code works, understand business ideas, understand a lot of things to be a good software engineer. And so the first level of software engineering is the passionate, right? So if you're somebody who's passionate, you're probably saying to yourself, hey, this coding stuff, this Python stuff is pretty goddamn cool. I can code a game, like a little mushroom from Mario. I can create my own PCs, which is like kind of, coding adjacent. I think anybody who, let's say you're a high schooler who's taken a AP comp sci class or something like that, and you really enjoy what you're doing and it's like a lot of fun, right? You're probably like in or around this range. And even if you're older, let's say that you're an older folk or an older lady, learning how to code in the meantime, just because, you like automating stuff. Like, let's say you have, taxes are coming up. You got to automate those. Maybe you make some sort of script or you vibe code something to automate your taxes. Or it doesn't even have to be that intense. It could just be like, hey, I got this one problem that I know I can solve with my computer, and I'm going to figure out how to do it because it's fun. And I think that's just where I want to start out, right? In order to be a good software engineer, or even in the level of software engineering for me, I think you just have to really enjoy software engineering. And if you don't, that's completely fine. You just do it for the paycheck, that's completely fine. But I don't think you'll ever reach to the level of like level 7, which we'll definitely talk about later, unless you are actually really, really into software engineering itself. So if you're someone who's watching this video, you probably like software engineering. Level 2, the talking head. Now, for this part, it's a little bit weird because I put Elon Musk, Mr. Doge, over here. I'm going to try drawing the Doge. We got Elon Musk over here. He is one of, I think, the biggest talking heads in engineering and maybe even software engineering in general, right? I think that in terms of software engineering, Elon Musk probably isn't that great of a software engineer, but he is somebody who, when people say things about software engineers, they think about this type of person, right? They think about the Bill Gates, they think about the Elon Musks, they think about, all of these people who are essentially talking heads, in my opinion. They probably don't actually really code that much. I don't think Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, anybody who is, really, let's say a big tech CEO or something like that, is actually spending all too much time coding. It's that these people are very influential and they have an effect on the entirety of the software engineering world, right? They're not exactly the type of people that I would say I would personally watch content from or influential to me, but I'll just say that when most people think about software engineering or software in general, they're probably thinking about these people, right? I don't know who else we can throw on this list. Let's say, Sam Altman, let's say Dario, right? Whoever else is on this list, right? Maybe Sam and Dario are actually spending some time coding, but I think in terms of the levels of software engineering, for me, if you are at such a level where you're CEO or operating something, you technically already did your hours and you already really liked the software engineering when it started, when you were just a little guy with a propeller hat, working on your little startup project that eventually becomes Facebook or something like that. And then you become a grizzled veteran where it's we got to make sure that they get their money worth. It's not like you're evil or anything like that. It's just essentially that's the position that you're in. You're not really doing that much coding, and that's pretty much where you're at. And all right, let's talk about level 3, which is personally one of my favorite levels because it's got this guy over here. So if you don't know who the Primogen is, he is essentially a guy who used to work in big tech, creates a bunch of content surrounding software engineering, but he's also still really involved with software himself. He has a lot of experience in the actual big tech field. I'm pretty sure he worked in Netflix and things like that, but this is just one example, right? He's a big tech bro. In terms of the levels of software engineering, you're going to get a lot of guys like this, right? Let's say I think it's Tim Talks Tech or something like that, right? These guys have been there and done that when it comes to software engineering in industry. They've spent years, maybe even not decades, but years, let's say maybe 15, 20 or so years, just coding, actually being on the job in these big tech companies. And they usually, are there to either entertain you or train you or teach you something that you're actually going to get a lot of value from. And they're mostly focused on that big tech. I don't know how to explain it with words, but the feeling of creating software at scale, right? So for me, when I think about big tech, I think less about like small projects and vibe coding. I think about more of how you can configure your current work setup to be the most optimal when it comes to outputting code. How can you learn the most optimal algorithms? How can you basically spend the most amount of time to get the best outcome? And obviously that doesn't apply to everybody here. And I think that, there's also a lot of other YouTube channels and people that kind of fit in here. But I also think that in terms of software engineering, this is the level where it starts to get serious. It starts to get very serial very fast because, like I said, you got to have a couple of years under your belt to be one of these YouTubers, one of these creators. I mean, it's no joke. You see these guys, they're putting in the work, they're streaming. Neetcode posts a freaking video every single day. Or he used to post a video every single day with solving a Neetcode problem. I'm pretty sure he might still do it. He owns his own platform. He, is running his own business. There's a lot of value that you can get from here, but it's mainly focused around that big tech space. And I really like a lot of these creators. I think that you can get a lot of value from just watching them, interacting with them, and just actually spending the time to listen to their stories and hear about why they have the opinions that they do. Seriously, we are lucky that we have these content creators to make content for us, explaining their experiences, their stories, and I think it's really great that they are pretty much who they are. And that's level 3. We're still getting spicy over here. I hope this video doesn't go too fast. I'm going to try slowing down a little bit, and then, we can speed up from here. Okay, so now let's talk about the startup, bro. Now, startups are a whole different game than just big tech software engineering, right? And the creator that I want to highlight here is Theo Brown, right? So this guy, Theo Brown, is a content creator that I watch a lot of. He is obsessed with software engineering. I'm not saying that, these guys over here aren't obsessed with software engineering either. Neetcode, again, does a leak code problem every single day. But I think that the way in which this guy explains himself and creates content about software engineering kind of shows that this guy does not mess around, right? So I'll give you an example. Theo Brown does not watch movies or TV. He programs instead. He reads articles about software engineering instead. He live streams to YouTube instead, doing anything that wouldn't be something he's passionate about, right? And this is kind of that startup bro mentality that I think is really awesome. And I would say is a level above kind of the big tech bro, right? Because I feel like for the big tech bros, I'm not saying that any of these people are bad or anything like that, but I think you have to be an entirely different animal to be involved in the startup world. I don't know how to explain it. You have to be willing to sacrifice pretty much most, if not all, forms of distraction that don't involve you somehow making your company grow and get bigger, right? So Theo, he runs a startup right now. He invests into a lot of different YC companies and things like that. When Theo talks about software engineering, or he talks about Y Combinator, or he talks about any of this stuff, you can tell that he really cares. And I hope to be like this one day, because the level of really caring that this guy kind of exudes is, again, at a whole nother level. You have to be willing to, it's not even willing. It's like, you don't even think of software engineering as a sacrifice, right? So some people say like, oh man, I really don't like my job. Like I spend so much time there. I never get paid enough. It's like the worst thing ever. Again, it's the sad versus the happy. There are some people who are genuinely so happy to just be near a computer and just write software, even if it's like, the worst thing ever, and they only have access to a Windows 7 computer with command prompt or Notepad++ or something like that. They would still be really happy to at least be near a computer and code. And if you give these guys the power of like AI or just any sort of platform or place for them to spread the word of what they're working on or what they're doing, I'm 100% sure that anything they put out of their mouth will be good and also most likely very opinionated, right? Because if you take something so seriously like a startup or raising capital or something like that, the level at which you're competing with other people is also going to be pretty high as well, right? That's why you see with, the big tech bros and the startup bros, there's a little bit of a different culture when it comes to, who you worked for, what you've done. It's not so much about, where you worked at for startup bros. I feel like it's more about what you can do. And I think this translates really into the next portion, right? The machine learner, or I think this is just more like the researcher, right? Now, I can say to myself, like, as somebody who's like running a startup or doing something, like you have to be pretty dedicated and you have to be willing to sacrifice a lot in order to actually figure this stuff out. But there's an entirely different type of software engineer or computer scientist when it comes to involve research, right? So research is much different than owning a startup. For me, when I think of a researcher, I think of people pushing the limit on what's possible with software engineering. And for me, somebody who's really inspired me in this field is honestly Alex Karpathy. I'm drawing a blank on other people's names, but maybe that means I don't read enough research. But yeah, so I watched a lot of his videos and I've read a lot of papers, but I honestly don't remember the names of the people whose papers I've read, which is kind of sad. I should remember them more. I should try remembering their faces. So what I was going to say is that Karpathy was one of the ones who contributed to the transformer model, but in reality, he was just one of the original founders of OpenAI. The people and the researchers who created papers like Attention is All You Need, which pretty much kicked off the entire AI generation that we're in right now, they are the people who are the next level of software engineer. It's like, I think if you're redefining what's possible with software engineering and pushing the frontier every single time, it's really something that is life-changing for millions of billions of people, right? Because the people who researched Attention is All You Need, I have their names over here: Ashish Vaswani, Noam Shazir, Nikki Parmar. They pretty much are redefining what's possible for most average Americans, most average people in the world. And, creating opportunity through not business, but science and the fundamental understanding of the world, right? And this is so cool because when a researcher is on the breaking edge of technology, they're really just pushing the limits. And I think as a startup, you don't exactly have to push limits. You just have to find something that works and make sure that your growth goes up. But as a researcher, as somebody who's a software engineer who has to kind of like redefine what's even possible, you don't really think too much about this, I feel like. I think you think about it in more of like a 3D way. The idea that, whatever you do, whatever comes out of it, you're just going to keep going up. And there's like a lot more factors at play with the kind of research you're doing and kind of the actions that you're taking or what actions your effect will have. Because, this is simple. Graph goes up, money goes up. But in research, it's like graph goes up, new technology is discovered, new entire ways of thinking are discovered. All of the American economy kind of relies on AI being good. And these guys, the machine learning engineers, the researchers, they are the ones who are driving our ability to spend money on tokens to, make better AI tools and systems, right? Like without them, I'm pretty sure the stock market would be going like, because that's pretty much all we got right now. So yeah, the machine learner, the researcher, the people who redefine what's possible, they are definitely one of the higher levels of the software engineer. Because I'll give you an example, right? Theo Brown, startup bro, he made T3 Chat. It's a great tool. I really love it, and I use it all the time. But it uses the models that the people below us, the people below here, are the ones who created. The Kimi K2s, the Claude Opus, right? These researchers, these frontier model creators, anybody who's essentially working in this field, they are affecting the game in a completely different way. And you gotta respect them for it. You know what I mean? Now let's talk about the programming gods, right? You probably already know his name, Linus Torvalds. If you gave this man a box of scraps, and I'm not even joking if you gave this man a box of scraps, he would probably be able to build something insane that all of the entire software engineering community, everybody, whoever has touched a computer relies on, right? There are a lot of names here, which I sadly don't know off the top of my head. I will write the rest of them over here. Like the creator of Go, the creator of Python, the creator of, compiled C language or compiled languages in general. These people are even further past what the machine learners or the researchers have done, right? They have essentially set the standard on what's possible with software engineering, right? You have tools like Git. You have operating systems in general, like the idea of an OS in general. That was all created by these programming gods. And it's not even so much the fact that they, are such good programmers that everybody has to use their stuff and nobody can change and everything like that. I think it's just like they completely created new avenues and created tools that, like, it's almost like physics in the way that you create an equation or you create an idea or you synthesize something that people will be using for the rest of their lives, right? It's like I'm using Windows right now, right? Like think about Windows. Windows is literally written in C. And like think about Windows. Windows is literally written in C++ and C. And the people who created Windows over the past 30 years, these OGs, the people who started it, maybe Bill Gates and whoever at that time was working on this stuff, not nowadays, because I'm pretty sure Windows right now is like slopware. Let's not really talk about that. I think that they are definitely gods in the sense that we wouldn't be where we're at today without these people, right? It's like these people walked or I don't know, stepped so the people above us and everybody before them could run, right? We essentially need these languages in order for the world to go around. Without C++, Go, assembly, any of these original languages, right? Anybody who pretty much wrote a compiler, they are gods in the sense of they have redefined what is possible in a different way. It's like they almost set the rules for what can even be done, right? You have to break the rules as a researcher and redefine what's possible, but this pretty much defined what's possible, right? And I think that honestly, it's harder to find what's possible if you have nowhere to go off of. You start with a computer that's literally just like a motherboard or something like that. That's level 6. And that you could say, is the highest level. That is where the pinnacle of software engineering is. This is where we stop. But no, there is a secret level of software engineering that I think that not enough people know about, right? And it's these people that could actually probably trump the creator of Go, creator of Python. These people are like savants and actual generational talents that you will never probably know their name. They are the eldritch forces that be. And I know that's a little bit dramatic, but how much would you pay somebody to make you billions of dollars with a trading algorithm, right? Think about that number. How much would you pay somebody for an industry to create or follow an algorithm that literally makes billions of dollars on the stock exchange every single day? I'd probably pay a lot of money for that because I'm making way more money on the stock exchange. My stocks go up While even if I pay somebody, let's say, I don't know, $1 million per year, I make that way faster as somebody who's like in the finance sector. And the eldritch forces that be, in my opinion, in the last level of software engineering, are these people who work at these high performance trading firms, these people that when you look on the Citadel YouTube page, you will see their faces and understand that, okay, these people are an entirely different beast. So let's see. I can just tell from what he has done and what he probably will do as a quantitative developer, as an engineer or machine learner, that he is making the best bet on himself by working at Citadel or whatever like that, right? These are the people that you don't know their names, but they are essentially the generational talent. You know, they are the tech gods that you'll never know their name, right? They are making a comfortable $800,000 base salary, right? And that number sounds insane, right? It's like, oh my God, $800,000? That's crazy. But think about the, multiple hundreds of thousands of bonuses and stuff like that they're getting for just making this equation better, right? I'm not a quant trader, but I think that there are a lot of people who are very smart, who are in this field that, again, you don't know their name, you don't really hear them, but they are probably some of the best software engineers that you'll ever come to meet or ever know, right? And the fact of the matter is, if you are one of these firms, you want to make sure that you're hiring these people no matter what. Let's say you have like some sort of crazy interview process, right? That is 10 weeks long and it takes 15 interviews with like the hardest calculus imaginable and, super difficult logic questions. That's essentially just a way to filter out the people who aren't the eldritch forces that be. You got to have a different type of dog in you. You can't have this dog. This is not the dog that you can have. You gotta get like one of these dogs, you know what I mean? One with like he's freaking angry, dude. He's got freaking blood on his teeth. He's ready to go, bro. He's like a hound, Let's get some coding done, dude. Let's do this. And they don't have to be like that energetic or anything like that. But they're software engineering monsters and they are being compensated properly for their roles. I mean, $800,000 base, easy. They're getting put up in a high rise for free. You're essentially the Kobe of software engineering and nobody needs to know your name, which is the best part. And honestly, I think that getting to this level, if you haven't been coding since, you were like 5 years old, you might not ever reach this level, which I think is okay. Sometimes you have to accept that you're just going to be better at some things than other people, and some people are going to be better at you than other things. But, if you want to get to this level, I'd say good luck, man, and read a lot of books and try becoming one of these eldritch forces. It's actually probably a lot tougher than you would think, right? And then slam dunk, you get the $1 million reward, right? You play the game, you win, right? And all right, so let me know. I think that pretty much sums up the 7 levels of software engineering for me, but I know there's also some unknown legends and things out there that I might not have mentioned here. This is a different style of video than one I usually do. It's a little bit more fun, a little bit more relaxed. Let me know what you guys think. And if I forgot anybody, please let me know in the comments down below.